The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the Ottawa mansion in Icoy, casting soft golden streaks across the marble floor. Everything in the house gleamed, every corner curated, every vase precisely placed, and at the center of it all sat Joyce Ottawa, sipping her herbal tea, dressed in a pristine white robe that screamed wealth and discipline. Her daughter, Emma, descended the staircase in silence, her slippers muffled by the Persian rug. She wore a designer tracksuit and AirPods, barely meeting her mother's eyes. Joyce glanced at the time. "You're late for your piano lesson," she said without looking up. "I wasn't feeling well," Emma muttered, pulling out a chair. Joyce's eyes narrowed. "Wellness is a choice, Emma, especially when you're destined for greatness." Emma forced a smile, her fingers toying with her phone. The breakfast table was a work of art: fresh croissants, tropical fruits, imported yogurts, but her appetite was elsewhere, somewhere far from this silent pressure cooker of perfection. "You're starting your internship next month at the law firm. I've spoken to Mr. Dave," Joyce continued, slicing into a pawpaw like it was a business deal. Emma paused. She hadn't agreed to the internship. She hadn't even filled the application form. Her throat tightened. Joyce looked up finally, studying her daughter. "What's wrong?" Emma looked down. "Nothing, Mum." But something was wrong. Emma was suffocating in silk, and deep inside, something wild had begun to stir. The clink of silverware echoed in the quiet dining room. Emma poked at her papaya slices, pretending to listen as Joyce launched into her morning routine of updates, plans, and expectations. "I confirmed your spot for the youth leadership seminar in Abuja," Joyce said, her tone brisk. "And next week, the law tutors from Oxford are visiting. You'll attend the private luncheon." Emma blinked slowly. "Mum, I thought you said I could rest after exams." Joyce sighed, folding her napkin. "Emma, resting is for people who don't carry legacy on their shoulders. You're not like them. You're Ottawa." Emma clenched her jaw. "What if I don't want to be Ottawa all the time?" Joyce stiffened, her elegant fingers halting mid-air. "Excuse me." Emma looked up, her eyes clear and defiant. "What if I just want to be me?" The air grew tense. Even the housekeeper, silently dusting the far wall, paused. Joyce leaned back, studying her daughter like a stranger. "You're young. You don't know what the world is like outside this gate," Joyce said, voice cool. "I do. I've protected you from it." Emma's voice cracked slightly. "Maybe that's the problem." Joyce stood slowly. "You'll understand one day. Until then, you'll follow my path." As her mother walked out, heels clicking sharply against marble, Emma stared at her untouched breakfast. She wasn't hungry. Not for food. For freedom. Emma sat curled up by her bedroom window, phone in hand, watching the garden fountain sparkle in the sunlight. Everything outside looked perfect: trimmed hedges, security guards, luxury cars, but inside her chest, a quiet rebellion was brewing. She smiled as a message popped up on her screen. "Alex, studio rehearsal today at 4. You in?" She hesitated, then quickly typed, "Emma." "Yes. I'll find a way out." Alex wasn't part of her world. He didn't come from money, didn't attend elite schools or sip hibiscus tea at brunch. He was raw, passionate, and real, a student from the mainland who wrote lyrics that made her heart ache. They met during a university outreach to Yuba. Joyce had insisted she join for PR reasons, but while Joyce posed for photos, Emma had wandered off and found music, rhythm, and Alex. She hid him like a secret diary, a life untouched by rules and status. A place where she could just breathe. A knock at the door. "Your tutor is waiting," her mother's voice called. Emma tucked her phone under a pillow. "Coming." She stood and faced her reflection in the mirror. Her pressed hair, pearl necklace, and polished nails looked like perfection, but her eyes, they didn't match. Behind the curtains of her golden life, Emma was already slipping away toward a world her mother would never approve of. The sun was setting over Lagos, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. Emma stood in front of her wardrobe, her hands trembling as she swapped her pastel blouse for a plain black top and ripped jeans. She threw on a hoodie and slipped out before the housekeeper could ask questions. "Tell Mum I'm at a study group," she whispered to the maid at the gate. The driver eyed her but said nothing. He was used to her comings and goings, used to silence. She took a rideshare to Lekki Phase 1, heart pounding with every bump on the road. When she arrived at the low-lit lounge, she could already hear the music, a raw, soulful rhythm that cut through the noise of clinking glasses and laughter. Inside, Alex stood on a tiny stage, guitar slung over his shoulder. His voice poured into the room like smoke, smooth, defiant, alive. Emma found a corner seat and watched no suits, no expectations, just people dancing, laughing, feeling. When Alex spotted her, his grin widened. He didn't wave. He just kept singing. And somehow, she felt seen in a way she never had before. For the first time in her life, Emma wasn't Emma Ottawa, daughter of Lagos royalty. She was just Emma, and in that moment, it was enough. Emma's laughter echoed above the music as she sat at the back of the lounge, sipping a cold malt and watching Alex banter with his bandmates. She felt light, like a version of herself she'd buried years ago. Then her phone buzzed. Mom calling. Her smile vanished. The noise of the lounge suddenly felt too loud, too risky. She glanced at the time, 9:47 p.m. Her curfew was 9 o'clock sharp. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Decline. Alex noticed her sudden stillness. Everything okay? Emma forced a smile. Yeah. Just school stuff. The phone buzzed again. Then again. Finally, a message popped up. Mom, where are you? Your driver says you're not at the study group. Call me now. Emma's heart thudded. She knew she was out of excuses. Her mother's world was ruled by control schedules, trust, image, and Emma had just cracked the FOD. I have to go, she said quickly. Alex frowned. You sure? We're heading to a late-night jam in Surrey. Emma stood, struggling to breathe. Another time. She rushed outside, flagged down a ride, and stared at the city lights through teary eyes. She had made her choice. One ignored call was all it took. The first lie was always the easiest. The next morning, Emma sat silently at the breakfast table, her mother's voice floating through the air like distant thunder. You lied to me, Emma. Don't insult me with more silence, Joyce said, arms crossed tightly, eyes sharp. Emma didn't look up. Her phone had been confiscated. Her laptop locked away. No Alex. No escape. I just needed air, she mumbled finally. Joyce's voice sharpened. Air? You had air in Lekki, in a bar, with strangers? What if something happened to you? Emma stood suddenly, the chair scraping against the tiled floor. Something is happening to me, Mum. I'm drowning here, and you won't even see it. Joyce's lips tightened. You're privileged, not drowning. Don't confuse rebellion with suffering. Emma stormed out, heart racing, tears brimming. That afternoon, she sat on the floor of her room with a pen and notebook. Her thoughts spilled in angry waves, lyrics, poems, rhymes. The words didn't ask for permission, they demanded space. You dressed me in silence, called it love and gold. But freedom's not a favor. It's a truth I want to hold. She exhaled, surprised at her own voice on paper. Later that week, she found a way to sneak into Alex's studio. The mic, the beat, the dim lights, it felt like fire under her skin. She recorded her first track in a whisper, raw and shaky. But when she played it back, she smiled. It was hers. Her voice. Her story. Her rebellion. Joyce stood by the balcony of her home office, watching the fountain bubble peacefully in the courtyard. But inside, her mind was anything but calm. Emma had changed. She was quieter, distant. Too polite. Too smooth. And that was what worried her the most. She dialed her driver, Chucks. You said she asked to be dropped at school, right? Yes, Ma, Chucks replied. But she always say I should wait outside the gates. She never let me follow her in. Joyce narrowed her eyes. That wasn't like Emma. And suddenly, the walls of her polished world began to tremble. By noon, Joyce had called a private investigator, an old contact from her days managing high-profile clients and scandals. Just check where she goes, discreetly. I want to know who or what is pulling her away from me. By evening, the first report came in. Emma hadn't been at her law classes in over a week. Her professors thought she was ill, but she was seen near a run-down recording studio in Yaba. A recording studio? Joyce dropped the report on her mahogany desk, stunned. It didn't make sense. Emma hated noise. Emma didn't sing. Emma was supposed to be a future lawyer, not a performer. Her pulse quickened. She had built an empire of class, respect, and status. Her daughter was not about to throw it away for guitars and graffiti. No, not while she still had a say. With a deep breath, she called in the driver. "We need to talk." The door to Emma's room burst open before sunrise. "Get up." Joyce's voice rang cold and firm. Emma blinked, disoriented. "Mom, what's going on?" Joyce tossed a manila folder onto her bed. Photos spilled out, grainy shots of Emma entering the studio in Yaba, laughing with Alex, holding a mic. One photo showed her on stage in Lekki. Emma sat up slowly, her chest tight. "You've been skipping school, sneaking out at night, lying to me," Joyce said, voice trembling not with anger, but with heartbreak. Emma gathered the photos in her lap. "You had me followed. You left me no choice. I had to know where my daughter had gone." Joyce snapped. "You're risking everything I've built." "For what?" "A boy with a guitar." Emma stood. "For myself, Mum. For the girl you won't let exist." Joyce's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand. I sacrificed my youth, my dreams, so you'd never struggle." "I never asked you to," Emma shot back. "You created a version of me you could control, not the one I want to be." Silence fell. The weight of truth settled like dust in the air. Joyce took a step back. "You're not going back to that place. No more studio. No more Alex. I'm locking this down, Emma." Emma's face hardened. "And I'll find a way out." They stared at each other, two reflections of pride and pain. The war had begun. By noon, Emma's phone was gone. Her laptop too. The housekeeper received strict instructions. No visitors, no unsupervised outings, no exceptions. Joyce transformed the mansion into a fortress. A new driver was assigned, older, stricter. Security guards were told to alert her directly if Emma so much as opened the gate. Emma paced her room like a caged lion. The silence felt louder than any song. No Alex. No music. Just the steady hum of the air conditioner and the sharp echo of her mother's control. Downstairs, Joyce sat in her private lounge with a glass of wine, eyes locked on her phone. She had reached out to an elite therapist, a youth counselor, even a family friend at the university, anyone who might talk sense into Emma. "She's slipping," Joyce confided in her best friend, Effie, over the phone. "This girl is walking straight into the gutter. But maybe she needs space to find herself," Effie said gently. Joyce's voice tightened. "Not at the expense of everything I've worked for." Upstairs, Emma scribbled furiously in her journal, lyrics coming like a fever. "This house is velvet chains, a palace with no door. I smile so I won't scream, but I can't fake anymore." Her hands trembled as she wrote. Something inside her had snapped. She was tired of fighting from within. So she stopped. Not to surrender, but to plan. Because escape wasn't a matter of if, it was when. Emma waited until midnight. The house was still. The guards rotated shifts at the front gate, and the new driver was long asleep in the boys' quarters. She had studied their patterns for days. Dressed in all black, Emma slipped out of her room, a small backpack slung over her shoulder. It held only the essentials, some cash she had hidden, an old phone with no SIM card, and her journal. Her heart pounded in her ears as she tiptoed past the living room, then the kitchen. She opened the side door leading to the back garden and slipped through the bushes. Outside the gate, Alex was waiting on a borrowed motorcycle, helmet in hand. "You sure about this?" he asked, voice low. Emma nodded. "If I stay, I'll disappear." He handed her the helmet. "Let's go then." As they sped off into the night, Emma felt the wind whip against her face. Fear bubbled in her stomach, but so did freedom. For the first time in her life, she had chosen her path. No permissions. No apologies. Just Emma.